Saturday morning, Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. John Watson and me, Bruce Jones, sitting in the grandstands, well, in the commentary box, looking over the circuit. Welcome to all our Facebook friends, tens of thousands following around the world. This is the first free practice session. The bronze and silver class drivers have been out since 10:15, and we're joining with just under 40 minutes remaining. And John, at the top of the time charts, we've just been talking, it's Audis and Mercedes at the fat end, and number 5, Alessio Picariello, is fastest of all, 1 minute 46.33 seconds. But it does seem that way, doesn't it? A little mix of cars at the top.
Well, it's all new to everybody in Blancpain Sprint, because although there have been many other events, GT events, GT3 events, over many seasons, this is the first time that the SRO Blancpain Sprint, part of the Sprint and Endurance Championship, have come to the Circuit de Catalunya, because this is a part of the region of Spain known as Catalunya, Circuit de Barcelona, any variety of different options. Great circuit probably most known to most racing drivers in Europe, because this is the home of testing. This weekend, of course, we've got a race, which is nice to see. We don't often come to test, but here we are, this is the final round, and a critical round it is too, because the championship, the Sprint Cup Championship and the overall GT Championship will be finalised here on Sunday.
Actually, it's quite fitting as we look here at the Blancpain action. It's a car from ACA ASP, because not this one, not the 89, but one of the sister cars. In fact, it's this one, sorry, number 89, has a connection with that race 13 years ago when the SRO was last here, because Jean-Philippe Belloc drove 13 years ago for L'Arbre Competition and 6th on the grid, failed to finish the race. One other driver has a connection with that 13-year leap. And Giacomo Piccini, he didn't race here, but his brother did and finished 4th in the Lister back in 2003. So how about that, John?
Well, I mean, we're going back to the very early days. As we look at number 8, that should be Maxime Soulet behind the wheel. Assuming that, it's difficult to see just on the timing and scoring, because that's the first time we've seen this car come out on track. It is Soucek, I bet it's Andy Soucek, not Soulet. Andy Soucek, of course, Andy being Spanish, so he's giving Bentley their first outing of the morning. So it'll be interesting to see. Everybody else who's been bronze and silver have been running for the best part of 40 minutes, whereas the Bentley going out will be going out fresh rubber. We'll see just precisely where Andy Soucek will put the Bentley in relation to the fastest time overall by the number 5 Audi at a 146.3. But Soucek knows this place, Bruce, like the back of his hand. I mean, he was almost sort of born within the parameters of the circuit. Look, that's confidence, running wide coming out of turn 9 like that. You only do that if you've got confidence in yourself, your knowledge of the racetrack and your car. Not saying purples, but maybe it's on this first flag.
Is.
But obviously personal best.
Now we're starting to see purples, but from the sister Bentley, Stephen Kane has just set the fastest first sector of all. Worth pointing out, we had 23 cars out in the bronze and silver grouping. This cluster of cars will bring it out to 34 overall. Target time 1 minute 46.3. That will go very early on. Riding on board at the moment with Andy Soucek, the very fiddly end of the lap. That's turn 14 and 15, and now he joins what was originally a fantastic final sweep of a corner onto the start-finish straight.
I mean, the corner is still fantastic. The difference is, what, 5, 7, 8 years ago, they changed turn 13 from being a set-up quick right-hander with a short straight before you got into what now is turn 16, and for reasons of safety they decided it was better to put the chicane in, or it's a lazy chicane really more than what I would call a deliberate chicane. Consequently, the rhythm of the final sector of the lap has been completely lost, but it has been introduced primarily for the interest of safety, and one cannot really argue with that.
Certainly not. Car we're looking at the moment is right in the mix for the overall title. 5 points clear at the moment. Maxi Book sharing with Dominic Baumann, and if Book can do it, he will win titles 3 years running. Endurance, sprint, and then overall, and that car was going very well. Its first flying lap puts it 15th, but we have up at the top Stephen Kane. We saw he's moved up to second place. That was his first flying lap. That's a really, really strong one from the number 7 Bentley. Let's see what 84 can do. Riding towards the end of the lap, just trying to see how Maxi's done. He's had a green middle sector. He'll move into the top 10. Now he's coming down to that turn 14 and 15 where everything slows right down. Looking less cumbersome than some of the cars we saw in the initial part of the session. Some of the bronze drivers, and certainly Maxi Book was working that Mercedes really, really hard through that final cluster of corners. Where will it put him? The target time still 1 minute 46.3, 148
16th.
dead. So he's gained nothing at all. He's
16th, so we're going to stay with Max Book, and let's have a look and see how the Mercedes deals. Before we came here, I thought with the nature of the circuit, very long corners, the need to lean on the rear of the car to take all the emphasis off the front, the left front in particular, the Mercedes would be the car. But right now, it's a combination of Audi, Bentley, Mercedes, whatever, and we're waiting to see where this car will end up on our second flying lap with a little bit of traffic. That's probably going to be compromised. That's the 59 car. Andrew Watson has been out in that car pretty much now. Martin Plowman behind the wheel. Currently, it's just dropped down to 23rd out of 34. So it's the 58 car, the sister car, that's very much in the fight for the overall championship. And we need to see when that car will appear. And Rob Bell has been out, gone back into the pits again. Oh no, in fact, he's still out on track. He's just, his times are not relevant. He's 32nd. But Max Book, personal best first sector, second sector. That was getting past the 59 car of Martin Plowman, so caused a little bit of loss of time. And then coming through this, again, frustratingly slow part of the racetrack, this final sector, which had that lovely, and again, the Audi not really reading what was going on as the quicker car came up behind.
Well, huge compromise. Worth pointing out, this is free practice 1. We've got another session coming up, and then qualifying starts at 3:30 this afternoon in Central European time. But this car, the 84 Mercedes AMG, is very much in the mix. It's 5 points clear. Baumann and Book ahead of Rob Bell in that 58 McLaren for overall honours.
Now, we're saying the 84 car still in 15th, but more importantly, the sister car, the 85 car, Jasmine Jafar, has just gone third quickest. So the pace of the Mercedes, not with the 84 car, the sister car, third quickest, just 0.2 of a second away from what is still the quickest time, which was the time set a little bit earlier. The number 5 Phoenix Racing car with Alessio Piccarello behind the wheel. That was a very good run, 146.333.
Yeah, well, here is the 58 McLaren, and obviously lots of plaudits for them after the most extraordinary results at the final round of the Endurance Cup at the Nürburgring a couple of weekends ago. Did they come home 30th? But anyhow, it was enough. They had enough of a points lead to just pinch the title from that 84 Mercedes.
It was nail-biting all the way through. In the meantime, the 58 McLaren still lingering outside the top 30. So this is on the 58 McLaren, a new view.
Oh, that's epic.
And that is, I tell you what, if anybody collides with the offside of that McLaren, I wouldn't want to be that driver.
No, quite
so. What a great shot. I mean, yes. That's a very, very
absolutely
unusual.
Brilliant.
I've never seen that angle previously. You're looking back and you're getting an indication. You just see the rear suspension on the McLaren as it was coming through the corner. So now...
Well, let's see what he can do. But I remember many moons ago where they first started fitting tiny cameras on the side of cars. DTM, Norris Ring, and they fitted it, unfortunately, on the outside of the car. Most of the outside of the track has concrete walls, so we were riding with Christian Danner, and then boom, in your face against the wall. This 58 lap for Rob Bell, well, he said his fastest first sector time, but he's, well, I don't think that's going to see him even in the top 20, but building up slowly. Of course, this car didn't go out for the first chunk of the free practice session.
It's just interesting watching, and I'm sure the team, when they see this, will be quite interested to see just the movement at the rear of the car, and just also how much of the tyre under cornering. I mean, that's just part of the bodywork we're getting an indication of. Anyway, it's an interesting view, one that we have not seen previously, one that viewers at home will be interested to watch, and undoubtedly they'll be making observations. A lot of suspension travel in that rear of the car. This is being pursued by one of the WRT Audis, which dives into the pit lane. So coming up to the end of this lap, Bruce.
You really, really hope that this camera angle is kept for the race and the McLaren's at the very front of the grid, and we can the run down to the first corner. Always so excited. The Circuit de Catalunya, no improvement on lap time, or within a few thousandths of his best, but down in 33rd out of 34 positions.
There's a myriad of reasons why
of course
we're not seeing a pace from this 58 McLaren, probably not least of all because they're on sets of tyres that have seen probably a considerable amount of mileage. The thing that will make the biggest difference here will be fresh rubber. It's a circuit that will respond to that. The other area, the circuit, it varies dramatically during the course of a day. So at this part of the morning, we're just after 11 o'clock in Barcelona. Actually, the track was probably quicker about an hour ago, and it would have been even quicker at 9 o'clock. And if you get up at 7 o'clock and run at 8 o'clock in the morning, as people do when they come and test here, that's even quicker again. And then it goes through that sort of period of almost nothingness, and then by the back end of the day, the pace picks up again. Very difficult track to actually get continuity, and teams will be chasing the track probably more than necessarily focusing on just going through a program. That's what you learn by coming to Barcelona.
And another, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, the Danish driver, has just taken over the car that's at the top of the timetables, the time set by his teammate Alessio Picariello, but that was a big thumper off the circuit, so it's not early in the morning, but he's now officially awake, I'd say.
Yes, I mean, and coming up to turn 9, which is the corner, and look how twitchy the Audi is. Turned the wheel, the back end stepped out, and he had to correct it. Contrast that to what we saw with Andy Suchek in the Bentley. That car was planted at lots of downforce, at a good balance, but that was a tricky moment for the Audi, and just Giorgio again, just, I mean, I think maybe he's making a feast, look, again, all over the shop, so that's more to do, I would say, with inexperience. Silver driver, Nicky Meyer-Madsen, so trying to go too quickly too soon, actually, I think, and again, a big slide over, just over driving, fundamentally. It took me a lap to get it out, and that's an example of somebody of less experience than those around him, just trying too hard too quickly.
And it also looks almost though he's lost confidence in the car. He's adjusting it absolutely everywhere. Okay, the straight line. Let's see what he can do if we can follow him down into the first corner. Downhill straight, of course, television flattens it. There is quite a noticeable dip down to turn 1. Let's see what he does on turn in. Will he have four attempts at the apex? No, he's sort of done it at 1.
Oh, well, again, the back end of the car just sort of snatched. So I think Moller-Madsen just needs to come off the throttle and actually just give himself more time and not try to be quick so soon. You know, let the time come to you, and your partner might be learning the circuit. I don't know how familiar he is with this 4.6 kilometer Barcelona circuit.
I think it's most likely his first time here, and his last lap around was 4 seconds off the best pace of the car. Of course, having hooked that wheel in the dirt, he came off, but he was still pushing, as we saw around the rest of the lap. Now he's at the lower part of the circuit. This is turns sort of 6 and 7. This is 7 now. Start going up the hill to where he got it wrong before. And then when you get to the crest at turn 9, it is a crest at the hill.
He turned in very quickly into turn 9 before. This time it looks slightly less aggressive and allowing the car to do its job rather than trying to manhandle the car and, you know, say, I'm in control. Nevertheless, I mean, it's part of this process that you've got to go through. If you are new to the circuit, it's a pretty substantial racetrack. Challenging corners again, just coming through that very tight section through turn 11, then the right into 12, that sort of long, almost parabolic corner. If we go back to something a little bit more, no, I was going to say serene, but the 99 BMW, that's Philippe Eng behind the wheel. So that looks very much more settled, as it's pretty much done, I have to say, all the way through the year since this car first appeared back in early April in Mazzano. And it's always been, I would say, serene.
They had a few problems at Monza. I think the two of them in the opening Endurance Cup round. But apart from that, and I mean, it was encapsulated their season in their outstanding victory in the Spa 24 Hours. And we've said it before, we'll say it again. They ran without problem through that race for 24 hours. Everybody else had a little hiccup. They were just rock solid, and what a win it was for Row Racing.
Interestingly, there's been a change in number 7 driver lineup. We've now got Vincent April behind the wheel, and that was the time initially set by Stephen Kane, so Vincent April has taken over, so interesting to see. He's just literally on his out lap. No, he just completed his out lap on his first flying lap. But Stephen Kane, of course, remember Stephen Kane coming off that massive accident he had going into turn 1, and he didn't get to do an awful lot
at the
Nürburgring.
At the Nürburgring, worth pointing that out. I had a chat with him this morning. I said, "Are you still stiff?" He said, "A couple of days," but to make matters worse, when he got home from the Nürburgring, they were moving house. Just something to focus your mind. But he's absolutely right as rain this morning. So let's see what the 99 BMW can do. Where will it move to on the charts? It's down on our second page on the timing screen. Stays in 21st position, but as you said, John, people are just working the track at the moment. They're on old tyres, just getting a feel. Now, of course, we visit a lot of circuits with the Blancpain series, but this is a new one to a lot of the drivers. Even though it's one everyone knows from Formula 1 testing and over the years, but it's not been on the Blancpain radar. So a track that has a lot to learn. We point out 16 corners, changeable conditions, and frequently in the afternoon. You used to get the wind here that would obviously buffet these cars quite a bit down the start-finish straight.
Yeah, I mean, I think the principal characteristic of the racetrack is the amount of change that occurs through early, from the first, almost from first light all the way through until the end of a day. And on Sunday we've got a race, at 9:15 tomorrow morning. Then the second race comes just after 2 o'clock. So between those two events, you could have your car identical new tyres, and you would end up having slightly different characteristics coming through the car, just simply because it's what happens when either the sun comes out, and at the minute we don't have, we actually got a fairly high sky, but it's overcast, but ambient temperatures are sort of low 20s. If the sun comes out and puts a lot of temperature into the racetrack, the danger is, and this is where experience plays its role, you don't want to chase the racetrack. You just stick to the message or the agenda that you have and work your way through it, because the racetrack will come back.
Well, just watching on screen, a slow lap there from the number 11 Kessel Racing Ferrari. Of course, that has taken the honours in Pro-Am pretty much throughout the year. It's leading nicely.
No surprise now, there we are.
Well, we saw Nikolai Moller-Madsen getting a little bit loose a couple of laps ago, and unfortunately it's got away from him, and he's at that agonising point just off the exit of the circuit, in backwards, just into the gravel.
Yeah, and then of course trying to get out of there, and he's doing what he normally would expect to do, is just floor the throttle and just dug himself deeper. So that car will have to be removed with a snatch vehicle. So whether that will remain as a yellow flag sector as the snatch vehicle quickly attends to the Audi, but of course always it's an issue when vehicles have to come to the side. Now, that's literally off the side there. You can see there's the corner worker on now the racetrack. So everybody needs to be very aware, and in some circumstances you could maybe see the equivalent of a full course yellow being thrown to just make sure that the car removed to safety as we go back to the far end of the racetrack into turn 13. This is the first part of this sort of fiddly, tight left, tight right, where the whole rhythm that you've built up over the lap just evaporates.
Well, just saw the number 74 Audi being brought in as they try and drag 5 away. Just under 22 minutes remaining in the session, so time for plenty, but really the team's using this first free practice session as plenty of track time. Nissan, though, going for a time. The 23 Nissan not at the top of the time charts at the moment, in fact quite near the bottom, 32 out of 34, but Takaboshi at the wheel, and let's see what he can do. Again, another fantastic camera angle as we ride around the Circuit de Catalunya.
Yes, coming out of that long turn 3, and then on the brakes, dive down the inside, try to sort of get almost into the curb. Then as soon as you exit out of 4, then you've got to get back across to the right hand side of the track, and then turn 5 it falls away. So you look how far wide he's gone. He just completely, I mean, I don't know whether Takaboshi-san has driven here previously. The 22 Nissan, Sean Wolcott and Sanchez, they've been out in that bronze and silver session, so they've had some track time, but this is the first time, I suspect, for Takaboshi here. And again, you're trying to make up as much time as quickly as possible to get that car. The car that finished 3rd 2 weekends ago, I mean, against all expectations, where did that performance come from?
Well, it was absolutely extraordinary. Huge pressure on those final few laps at the Nürburgring, but driven supremely well. But yes, quite so. That really was sort of blindsided us somewhat, but at the moment, car number 23, almost nobody setting any faster times on the track at the moment. It doesn't look as though Takaboshi is going to either. He's about to hit some traffic. He's gone past turn 4 where that number 5 Audi was in the gravel, so hasn't had to be delayed by that too much, but coming on towards the end of the lap.
So they're trying to get the car back on track, which they've pulled it on track, but making a real, mess of, instead of just booting it when you're on the tarmac and spinning it around, he tried to do the more progressive, gentle thing, and now it is a red flag, so it's been decided that it's safer just to get that car removed in a position where it would have to reverse, and of course the vision from the cockpit with all the let's go back and see, there we are, there's what he tried. Now, he could have actually booted, but look at the amount of gravel that's been dropped onto the circuit. And so at this point he should have reversed, but maybe he couldn't find it. Well, he has found it, but doesn't even want to go anywhere. And then he puts it into first gear, drives forward. Does the belly get stuck on the curb on the inside? Anyhow, that's turn 4, approach through long turn 3, and then it's a wide hairpin, so it's got not that good a visibility on the way in. And now clearly with the course vehicle there, that's why the red flag is out, so he can be pulled back onto the terra firma. And this time he's got to be pulled back rather than pulled forward. And this is the reason why, it just simply in the interest of safety, let the vehicle that's going to be the snatch vehicle to pull the Audi back onto the racetrack do its job without having to contend with drivers who are aware that this is a yellow sector on the racetrack, but racing drivers don't. Once they've been past it once, they know what's there. They don't. Now we've got the vehicle as safety. Let's hope that Nikolai can get that car. Wait until we just...
He's unhooked.
He's going to try and drive off with it still attached to the... There we go.
Okay, well, that was a very sensible decision. Obviously, for the teams that were just out towards the tail end of free practice 1, they want all the track time they can get. They'd also like any gravel that's dropped from the number 5 Audi to be swept away before we go green, hopefully with about 15 minutes to go.
Well, remember, the clock's still ticking down, so Nikolai Muller-Madsen, little error, turn 4, got into the outside of the circuit and got stuck. Now, interesting little piece I read, and I've been talking to a few of the journos here. Audi have announced that they're going to introduce, you might describe it as an entry level of the Audi R8. And what they're going to do is install a twin turbo, I think it'll be a 3-litre V6, part of the Audi range of family of engines. And I went, Eureka! Because, in my thoughts, anyway, these are my thoughts, nobody else's, haven't spoken to anybody in Audi, but you've got a lovely, glorious sounding V10 engine, and currently in the Audi, it's the same engine that's in the Lamborghini, but it's quite a large engine. It's long, it's quite tall. Wouldn't it be sweet to do let's say, a simulation back-to-back with a low, small, compact twin-turbo V6? I wonder what the outcome would be. Well, that's just me sitting here scratching my belly and thinking, what can I come up with? What other thoughts have I got that might be of interest to our audience?
But that's the eternal question. That's the fantastic pub talk, isn't it? How would it be?
The eternal...
One of the eternal questions.
I thought you were talking about the eternal city, Rome, which of course is the eternal city. But it is an eternal question, and it's something that would be maybe of interest, and I'm sure that there will be at some point a twin turbo V6 project just to compare to back to see how much further with the current Audi R8 platform, running gear, how much would it be any different? Would it be any better? Would it be any worse? Of course, you've always still got the balance of performance that would have a bearing, but just in terms of if you take out a sort of a long, fairly tall engine, put in a shorter, slightly lower engine with weight further down, would that not, to me, be a handling improvement? What do I know about motor racing or cars or handling?
Who knows, John?
But anyway, it's food for thought.
It filled a few idle minutes, didn't it?
Well,
but we're going racing. Yes. We're not racing, going out to practice. So that was a good call to bring in that red flag period. I noticed a lot of the drivers teams did driver changes. We saw Mitsunori Takaboshi getting out and quickly handing over the 23 Nissan to his teammate, Alex Buncombe. You You can see exactly who was who, because the seat infill was thrown over the top of the car, and the taller British driver getting on board. Now, it's not free time, they've lost the track time, but it's sort of forced their hand. Maybe the driver who was out before of the pro guys got slightly less time in the car. But 88 is one we're definitely wanting to watch this weekend. It's one of 3 Mercedes from Acker ASP, Tristan Vautier and Felix Rosenqvist. If they've done a driver change, it should be Vautier getting on board, but we will see.
Well, I've just got a feeling after Barcelona, which was the last round of the Sprint Blancpain GT Championship, Felix Rosenqvist, he ought to have won. The team ought to have won the sprint race, and it was really because they lost the advantage during the pit stops.
Well, in fact, at the first corner, didn't they? Because Tristan Vautier was sort of on the lead, but he was on the outside, and first became 4th by turn 2.
So I just think that Rosenqvist and Vautier is a really strong, fresh young pairing in a competitive car, and it's one I will keep an eye on, along with, of course, the 84, which is currently being driven by Dominic Baumann, currently showing in 11th position, 147.3, 1 second, or 9.997 of a second slower than the number 5 Audi, which was back in the pits, as is the second quickest car, the 7 Bentley, which was a time set by Stephen Kane on his first flying lap. And that car actually still only indicating it's done 2 laps, although it's showing Vincent Abril is behind the wheel, but not indicating. It's just gone out now.
It's done 10 laps. That was on its second lap.
Yes,
that showed how quick it was straight out of the box.
It was quick. Well, that was fresh tyres. That's why the time was so quick. But look, Stephen Kane, I mean, just went to show, and he maybe had a little point to prove after Nürburgring for an incident that we don't believe was a driver error, but it was never fully explained as to what was the reason, that it was a brake pad change, whether information went through or not to the driver, or the driver didn't pump up the pad. We don't get the full story. Anyway, this car, out of the box, right on the pace.
Right on the pace, going through turn 3. Next corner, of course, will be turn 4, where we saw taking spin. But now Vincent Abril slowed down. He wants a bit of clear track. I doubt he's on anything like new rubber.
It's saying Stephen Kane's back in it
Oh,
again.
Kane's, it's just, well, when he went out of the pits, he was still saying Abril took enough time then to change over. So they've done Kane, Abril, red flag.
Back to Kane.
Put Stephen in.
That's the story.
So let's see what he can do. But I don't expect to see a lot of green time. If we see improvements in time, they'll be down towards the tail end of the field.
This is another car to keep an eye on, Frank Pereira. Always a guy who I think in the ISR Audi capable of putting any car in pole position. Back to the 58 McLaren, the car that won the Endurance Championship 2 weekends ago, but really still Alvaro Parent behind the wheel. Again, in the case of McLaren, their go-to guy. Not in the hunt in the champ. Rob Bell is still in the hunt for the overall title. Alvaro isn't, because Alvaro spends most of his time mid-Atlantic, going to the Pirelli World Challenge Series there, as well as doing some Blancpain events in Europe, both sprint and endurance. So it's Rob Bell who could walk away champion
on his own.
Overall, I mean, what an accolade that would be for a man from up north.
Up north, indeed. So this weekend, Alvaro Parent obviously knows this track very well from his early days in racing, before he came up and competed and won the British Formula 3 Championship. They went to play in A1 GP, but very much a McLaren man now. And really not hanging around there at all, Alvaro Parent.
Well, he won at the last round of the British GT Championship, 3 weekends ago now, up at Donington Park. So Rob has been enjoying considerable success this year, all of it behind the wheel of a McLaren.
And I think the key to any quick times at the moment will be new rubber. There's also a lot of traffic on the circuit, 34 cars, around 4.655 kilometre circuit. So you work your space. Don't forget, this is free practice 1. We've got the second free practice starting at 12:30. This session ends at 11:35, so we've got time, plenty of time to adjust the cars, think about life, think about this supercritical circuit. 16 corners, tricky, constantly changing conditions.
Yes, and I mean,
understeer all over the place.
Yeah, Alvaro again, just maybe pushing hard, maybe got to come into the pits. In fact, on this occasion, and well, thanks Alvaro, you made me look clever, but he just decided the car wasn't delivering. Maybe as a late call, he wants to make an alteration. The biggest change anybody's going to go through here this weekend will be having the freshest rubber. whatever the car setup is, by the time you get midway through a stint on one set of tyres, you're just going to have to more or less live with it. I don't think it's ever been possible to get the perfect car for this Barcelona Grand Prix circuit. You have to make an element of compromises all the way through to try and get the best overall, not the best in terms of ultimate times.
What we're seeing at the moment, number 11 Kessel Racing Ferrari. This is the car that tops the chart comfortably in the Pro-Am class. Michel Bronicheski, the driver on board at the moment, Giacomo Puccini, really pushing hard. Tyres clearly past their best. He's 2 seconds down on the fastest session lap they've done in this session, looking for track time. But at this point, he's not just going round and round. He is really, really pushing that very hard indeed. But yeah, as I say, 1 minute 49 was his lap time last time around. But the car's not turning as he wants it, but he's really using every bit of curb he can, trying to keep it smooth, but the tyres clearly not playing anymore.
We're not seeing any more green sectors other than towards the very back of the field. But in the top 20, all the purples have disappeared. No greens showing everywhere. And now, this session is going to come to an end just over 9 minutes. When they come back out on track in a little over an hour's time, then they may be on different rubber, and you would expect to see some of what I would describe as our usual suspects, notably the 58 McLaren, and also possibly the 23 Nissan. The sister car, the 22 Nissan, doing better. Yeah, it's up in 15th place. That's driven by Ricardo Sanchez and Sean Walkinshaw. Sean Walkinshaw also had a major incident recently in a race, or in practice for an event in Italy, and he's still got a few little aches and pains and niggles, so not affecting him behind the wheel, because the best way you can treat aches and pains is give it a massive boost of adrenaline. Everything just feels so much better.
So worth pointing out, into the final 8.5 minutes of this free practice session, it's still the number 5 Audi, the troubled number 5 Audi, that had to be dragged out of the gravel bed at turn 4. Top of the charts, 1 minute 46.33. Again, that wonderful low camera shot. What's happening down in the pit lane? Someone's walking off, but that not at the front end of the field at all. It's still the number 5 Audi from the number 7 Bentley we've mentioned with Stephen Kane on board, and the 85 Mercedes is third fastest, and the 75 Audi, Frank Stippler, has now taken over from Philip Salacada. That is fourth fastest. How it will shape, and then if you want to go down to 5th and 6th, the 19 Lamborghini is 5th, and that junior racer from Germany, Bernd Schneider, 86, is up into 6th place in the car he shares with Jules Simkowiak. Plenty of action down at the Bentley end of the pit lane, but that looks more like as the 8 goes back out onto the circuit. Will we see 7 back out? They may just wheel that back into the garage, I think. I was going to say the body language, those are both going to stay for the rest of the session, then I noticed number 8 about to be lowered. So.
Yeah, the car's, well, I think it's going into the garage, got the dollies on them. So whatever they want to do to the number 7 car, they need to put it back into the space that they have in the garage to allow more than 2 of the mandatory people who are only permitted in the pit lane at any one time. So back to, let's have a look at the 19 Grasser Lamborghini up in 5th place.
Michele Beretta at the wheel at the moment, coming to start another lap. How good is his last lap? 1 minute 50.6, so 4 seconds down on the ultimate pace. Unlikely to improve on that in this remaining 7 minutes, but it's about getting some decent track time down into turn 1. Don't forget, this was the car that's qualified on pole position 2 weeks ago at the Nürburgring. Lucas Stoltz, fantastic lap to take pole. That was quick fire, and for those that didn't get to watch the event, we had to wait and wait and wait. The fog sat heavy over the circuit, and eventually we got to qualifying 3, the third group of drivers, and Lucas Stoltz did the job, but that was quite wide.
Yeah, I mean, that's all 4 wheels off the racetrack. Again, we haven't been talking about it so far. My little hobby horse, track limits. I don't know whether or how they will be implemented here in Barcelona, because there is a view that if you exceed track limits on some circuits, actually it ends up being slower than quicker. But we will no doubt in time be getting messages coming through from race director that drivers are requested to observe track limits. Up at turn 9, the corner we're coming to now, notorious for drivers running very wide on the exit, and well, you know,
half and half.
Just about acceptable in my view, but you'll often see cars, all 4 wheels right across, and I mean literally halfway to Madrid.
And again, kicking the tail out at turns 10, the little kink at 11, then you have to start turning right around what I've forgotten what the corner used to be called. We can see it from our commentary box, high on the hillside opposite us, in front of the big grandstands there.
Probably after what wasn't Pons or one of those motorcycles.
No, I think it was before that. I think it was named after a tractor, or was that the final corner? Something very racy.
Spanish tractor. Can't imagine what that might be. But anyway, coming through this final and very, very, I mean, still a challenging corner, turn 16, where get it wrong, and Andrea Montermini, who is here this weekend with a Ferrari, I'm not sure, is he managing it or driving it?
Managing, I think.
Okay. Andrea Montermini had a massive accident.
In 94,
was it in the Simtech or something? I'm not sure.
Simtech or Pacific?
Pacific.
I think it was Pacific. And
sorry, coming out of the long turn 3, that will no doubt get the attention of people who are going to be in control of this race. But just to go back to Andrea Montermini, I think maybe in the Pacific, he ran wide in 16, had a massive shunt because the way that the protection for the spectators, it sort of actually comes back towards the racetrack. If you go back onto this, the 59 McLaren, where is it lurking currently? Well, 59 is now with Mark Blancpain 27th, having been inside the top 20.
So 27th and 33rd for the McLarens at the moment.
Baz Leinders, who had real cause to celebrate at Nürburgring.
Not until the final lap.
Yeah. he knows what they're doing. They're going through, they've got their agenda, they're working through it. When it comes to go quick, I've no doubt that certainly the 58 car will be up there. The 59 car, which is driven by Plowman and Andrew Watson, will hopefully be within a few tenths of a second, but certainly the 58 car, which is the car that is going to have all the team focus on it right now, will, let's say, get into the top. It needs to be in the top 10.
Absolutely so. And yes, that was a race of enormous drama, ending up 30th, but still coming away with the Endurance Cup trophy. But it's all focused on seeing if they can get the overall trophy, not with this car, but with the sister car, the 58. The 59 at the moment, as John said, down in the 20s, but nobody improving on times. A lot of these drivers just using the final few minutes of free practice one to just complete their program, and they will work again through a different program for free practice too.
Aggressive coming through those 14 and 15, and I don't know whether that really, certainly in a GT car which weighs just over 1,000 kilograms, whether that's going to be any advantage. If people do that in single seaters and they think that they do gain, but I'm not quite so sure with a much heavier car where you've got to let it settle before you can really chase the throttle. Anyway, we'll have a look and see whether 59 has made any improvement. Martin Plowman behind the wheel, last lap 49.863. So he was 0.3 of a second down on his best.
Roughly 1.5 seconds down on that car's best. So they're just counting their way down towards the checkered flag. They will go through the reappraisal or the appraisal of what's happened out on the circuit. But I must say, wherever you are in the world, if you're watching on YouTube, watching live on the streaming on TV, these camera angles, they just really, really think about this on the opening lap of the race with a whole colourful train of cars behind them, maybe trying to overtake. And as you said, John, any misdemeanors driving up the inside of this McLaren will absolutely lead them up the steps to the race control.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, of course, people are familiar with Spy in the cab, and more people are fitting cameras to their cars. Certainly a lot of commercial vehicles do. But if there's an incident at the start into turn 1, that camera will be there to capture every movement, and whatever a driver says, because he's different, he'll have a different concept or perception of what occurred, but the camera will be there to tell the truth as we look at under the ISR. And well, Audi's coming down as we see.
This will be the number 8, yes. And that got very, very close to within a few hundredths of its best lap so far, which is good for 10th overall. This is Maxime Soulet, who's taken over from Andy Soucek and being driven with real gusto.
Yeah, and you can just see in that second sector, this car recorded its fastest sector time. So either Bentley have done a lot of work and they've found something in the car, or they've maybe fitted a set of tyres that there's maybe a little bit more vitality. Listen, I like that word, vitality.
That's good, isn't it?
We don't know. We have to see the conclusion of this lap, but the first sector time, not a personal best for the car, not a purple, which would be very surprising with just a minute now of the session remaining. But let's have a look and see where Andy Soucek, currently 10th quickest with a 147.3. Oh, the sister car, is that a stop or is that a shunt? And that looks like Stephen Kane walking. It's a shunt.
No, it's a shunt. The bonnet's up.
You can see, look, the marks on the tyre barrier. So something again for Stephen Kane Nürburgring, and that's coming. Is that coming out of turn 2 into turn 3? Never seen a car end up in there. Strange.
You'd have been coming towards the camera.
Watch, here we go. Oh, the back end got away. He lost the back end, and suddenly he's got no control at all, and in she goes. Stephen, that one for sure. Sad to say, that's in your hands, Stephen. So Watson, Abril, and the Bentley boys looking at their phones. They've got it. They're watching this, of course.
Well, that's
streaming.
The advantage of streaming, isn't it?
So they're watching it on the streaming. So
not what they wanted to see down in the Bentley
red
pit.
flag.
Well,
So
with
session's finished anyway.
Moments to go. So that was the car that was second fastest. Stephen Kane did such a good job as soon as he was able to go out in this session, when the top guns could go out quite a long way in on his second lap, his first flying lap. He did the second fastest time of all. Vincent Abril had a run, and then towards the end, Stephen put back on board. We mentioned we thought the cars were about to be put in the garages. We saw the number 8 go back out, and then obviously 7 on the dolly jacks was sent out, possibly for that final lap. And there's a driver who's slightly winded, perhaps, but far more than that is just depression, because he just.
That's that. He is just. He knows that was
what
down
have
to
I
him.
done?
He knows that was down to him. He just got on. Maybe rode the curb coming out of 1 into 2, the exit of 2. You can ride the curb there, but suddenly the car the back end went, and there was little he was able to do to prevent the contact. I mean, the best thing he would have done, with hindsight, is to floor the throttle and try and actually spin it. But to try and sit there, you're on opposite lock, and it's just the barrier, the tire wall's coming closer, 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 and you're just, all you can do is wait for the impact.
But it's a time of no consequence. It was a time when they weren't going for a time,
absolutely.
so to speak. He probably knew it was his last lap before coming in. It could have just simply been, well, who knows? It could have been a momentary loss of concentration, because he wasn't 100%. He was just going through the motions. Come what may, though. A very unusual place for a car to go off. Most cars that go off at turn 2 go straight on through the gravel, part way through the corner. But for Stephen, well, the team will already know, because of being able to pick up the streaming, what went on there.
The concern is that the car hit the tyre barrier at an angle, so it's the left front of the car that's taken the majority of the impact.
Well, let's see who's fastest. It was the number 5 Phoenix Racing Audi, Alessio Picardiello, who did that really quite early on. And the car that's crashed with Stephen Kane, 0.2 slower, and then one of the HTB Mercedes right up in the mix, Clement Schmitz and Yasmin Jafar. Frank Stippler, Philips Salicata going very well in the ISR Audi. Those top 4 all within 0.3 of a second. Then we got Lamborghini time, Michele Beretta, Luca Stoltz, 5th fastest. Half a second back in 6th was Bernd Schneider and Jules Simkowiak. But a lot of the championship challengers not yet up at the top end. But don't forget, a lot of the gold and platinum ranked drivers weren't out in the start of the session. They only got the final half hour and a bit. And they are saving their powder. They've got a free practice session to come up, and qualifying starting later today. Technical circuit, 34 cars went out, and as you can see from the spread of tyres, 5.8 seconds. A lot of them are still yet to put that fresh rubber on their cars and really go for a time. Tricky circuit here, 4.655 kilometres, 16 corners, and as unfortunately for Stephen Kane has just found out, a turn as benign as turn 2 going towards turn 3 can bite. So here are the cars going out. First thing at 10:55, and at 10:15. That was the free practice for bronze and silver drivers, and then the gold. Even problems right at the outset. Gold and platinum drivers came out later in the session, and that was a ride right early on. That was Dries van Tor, who ran wide and took to the barriers on the outside. But for everybody else, they managed to stay largely on the tarmac and had to work their way through traffic. Traffic, even in a practice session, can be a problem. And you can see the number. That's the Brazilian-driven Audi being weaved to the side of the circuit. That's an off at turn 9, Campster at the top of the hill, a corner that catches a lot of drivers out. That was the number 7 Bentley. It would have its own problems later on. 58 McLaren is right in the championship hunt, but at the moment, 33rd fastest out of the 34 starters, the 99 BMW. Again, likewise, a big challenger, but so far only 21st quickest. But it was the number 5 Audi that was the top of the time charts. Great time from Alessio Picardiello. Wonderful low camera angle showing the traffic up close hand. But Nikolai Moller-Madsen spun off at turn 4. That brought out the safety car while his recovery was completed. And towards the end of the session, the number 19 Lamborghini moved up to 5th fastest. And then the closing moments of the session were ended where the number 7 Bentley went right out of turn 2 and off into the tyre wall.